Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending the online webinar session for the Renfrew Street Recapitalization and new sidewalk work. We'll wait a few more minutes for others to attend, and then we'll start the presentation shortly. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending the online information session for the Renfrew Street Recapitalization and new sidewalk project. My name is Phil Nickerson. I'm a design engineer with HRM, and I'm managing this project. And I'm joined by my colleague in the active transportation group, Siobhan Witherby. And we're holding this session to give the residents and the local neighborhoods a chance to see the work that's going on here, and to give you opportunity to ask questions. So I'll give Siobhan a chance to introduce herself and to kind of give a brief overview of this session, and then we'll get into a presentation.
Perfect. Thank you, Phil. My name is Siobhan Witherby. I'll be helping to facilitate the session on behalf of HRM. We're really appreciative that you're able to join us this evening. Sunny Tuesday. Great that you showed up to provide your feedback on this project. I'll take you through a little bit of housekeeping. We've got 2 public engagement sessions planned, one for this evening and one for tomorrow at lunch. They will be identical, but it's just an opportunity for people to come and ask questions and learn about the project. At the beginning, there will be a 20 or 30-minute presentation with an opportunity to ask questions at the end. So if you can see, there's a little Q&A box on the side where you can type in your questions in text. That'll be the best way to communicate with us during the presentation. No one else can see the questions that you type in, but they will come directly to us. We'll hold them until the end of the presentation, and then at the end, we'll read out and respond to each question in the order that they come in. I will say that we are recording the session, so it will be available after the fact for folks who aren't able to make it tonight. So all of this will go on the public record. So please only write in questions that you're comfortable with being shared publicly afterwards. There won't be any identifying information associated with it, but we will be reading what you write to us. So just a disclaimer in that sense. Typically, we will host these style of public engagement events in person. Unfortunately, because of COVID-19 gathering restrictions, we're unable to do that at this time. But we do want to still gather feedback on the project from people living along Renfrew Street and in the nearby neighborhood, and sort of talk to you about what's going to happen and see if there are any opportunities or concerns that you may have. So with that, I'm going to send it back to Phil to take us through the content of the presentation, and then you'll see me again at the end to facilitate the question.
Great, thanks. So just to give a bit of context, Renfrew Street has been identified as being in need of recapitalization based on a priority kind of review that HRM does every year to see which streets are in need, most need. And Renfrew Street, as you can see in the picture here, is in relatively, the pavement's in bad shape and the curb as well. So it's been identified for renewal this 2021, or yes, this summer 2021. So you can see the nearby work on Chadwick and Glenview Drive, which is very similar to what we're planning here in Renfrew. So I'm hoping to complete this loop this summer. And council, it's part of the capital budgets for the regional council is approving for all the transportation work around HRM. And we've completed some preliminary design work, and right now we're in the process of doing some neighborhood engagement. And after this, we'll be working through detailed design, tendering this spring, and construction this summer, and hopefully ending this fall. So it's a bit of context for the where we are and where we're going with this. So in general, the work includes, as I mentioned, repaving the street, replacing the old asphalt curb with new concrete curb and gutter, installing a new sidewalk, and as well as taking this opportunity to repair or renew some of the old underground infrastructure that Halifax Water will be doing, as well as some traffic calming on the street. I'll get into some more details on these items a bit later. And in general, the reason, the benefits and the reason we're doing the projects, for this is to improve safety and accessibility with the new sidewalk, as well. We're looking to add some lighting on the street for the sidewalk, for the pedestrians and for residents and the vehicles as well. And the newly paved street will enhance the aesthetics and improve the drivability. As I said before, we can renew the underground infrastructure before we pave. It's always a good time to do that, so that we don't have to go back afterwards and dig up any pipes that need replacement on a newly paved street. And also, we're looking at some drainage improvements, which is helped by the new curb and gutter, addition of catch basins, and that kind of thing, as well as traffic calming with some speed tables to help slow down vehicles, improve safety for all users, people who are walking, cycling, or driving. So the recapitalization work includes full depth repaving of the entire street between Pleasant and Glenview, as well as I mentioned, replacing all the old asphalt curb with new concrete curb and gutter. You can see in this picture some work that was done on Chadwick last year, and as well we're looking at some areas where you can see here there's some ponding on the street. We want to add some catch basins, change some of the slopes slightly to avoid this ponding that we get, and let water flow where it needs to go, so we can fix some of those issues. And maybe I'll let Siobhan just talk a little bit about the sidewalk prioritization that we do here.
Perfect. Thank you, Phil. So when we talk about building sidewalks in the municipality, we do it for safety and connectivity purposes, but we also do it for providing different transportation options for people to use to get around in their neighborhood. We want to make it comfortable and safe for people to drive, but also to walk, cycle, and get around their neighborhood in a range of different ways. So what guides those decisions are two planning documents that we have: the Integrated Mobility Plan, which is our overarching transportation planning document approved in 2017, which ties it all together, but more specifically the Active Transportation Priorities Plan, which gives us clear direction about where to build the sidewalks and how to prioritize them. There is a tool within the Active Transportation Priorities Plan that helps us to look at the pedestrian potential of each road segment that is being requested either through 311 or the councillor, or we'll look at these opportunities to integrate with road resurfacing like on Renfrew. It looks at putting in sidewalk where there's proximity to schools, to daycares, community centers, seniors' homes, other major employment areas or higher density population areas where people might be living. It also looks at where we can close gaps in the sidewalk network. So we want to build sidewalk to connect existing pieces and help people get around their neighborhood a little bit more safely. So when we looked at Renfrew Street, not only have we had a few requests for sidewalk on Renfrew, but when it came up for recapitalization, we saw that it does rate highly using this prioritization tool. And that's just because of the proximity to NSCC and the Dartmouth Hospital and the Recreation Center. There's all sorts of community destinations around within a walkable distance. It fills the gap in the sidewalk network. It's a fairly dense neighborhood, and also the safety piece. So down at the bottom of Renfrew, there is kind of that turn in the road that it's a bit of a blind corner, and some of the crests along Renfrew make it a little bit less safe for walking in terms of being able to see who's alongside the street. So adding the sidewalk here would be beneficial. So that is why we're proposing to go forward with it today.
Great, thanks. So the side of the road that we're looking at adding the sidewalk is along the outside, or I guess the east side, which would be the side closest to the hospital. If you were to turn up Pleasant Street onto Renfrew, it would be on the right. I guess one of the major reasons there is, as you can see in the map, the bit that was installed, the sidewalk that was installed on Chadwick Street in 2019 is along the outsides. We're looking to continue that, keep that consistent, so we don't have to cross the road. Pedestrians won't have to cross the road along the sidewalk. So we're keeping it on that side of the street. And some details about the proposed sidewalk. It's going to be 2.1 meters, or about 7 feet wide, adjacent to the curb. So there'll be no sod buffer in between the sidewalk and the curb. And as I mentioned, on the side closest to the hospital. And this would, in order to do this, we have some challenges. Similar challenges that were observed on Chadwick, and so we're looking to narrow the road because there's some, you can see here in the picture on the left, bottom left, there's very limited space between the building to add a sidewalk in behind where the red line is. So we're looking to add it in the existing street area, and similarly there's limited driveway space. So if we were to add the sidewalk in behind the existing curb and to keep the street the same width, it would really cut into people's parking space and lawn space. So the area kind of shown hatched in blue is where we're looking to put the new sidewalk. And I'll talk about what that means for the street here in a minute. So this means, as I mentioned, narrowing the street from approximately 9 meters to 7 meters. You can see here in the pictures what Chadwick looked like before and after. A nearly identical treatment was put in. And the cross section shows more or less, how the existing curb is going to get taken out. It'll match the back of the new sidewalk, and then the street gets narrowed and repaved. So one of the major considerations for doing this work and narrowing the street is what will the parking impacts be. So the plan is to remove parking on one side of the street, which would be the side of the street closest to Chadwick or the downtown Dartmouth, and to keep parking on the east side of the street where the sidewalk's going closest to the hospital. And the reason for keeping parking next to the sidewalk is it allows for better connectivity for pedestrians. It means if somebody parks, they get out of the car and the sidewalk's right there, so reduces the need to cross the street so many times. And also, the majority of the existing parking is on that side of the street anyway, so we'd be able to keep approximately 60% of the parking of what's there today. So this would maintain, this change would keep two-way traffic, same as on Chadwick Street, and it would act as a yield style street, which is fairly common. So it means if there's lots of cars parked on the side and two cars meet each other, they might have to yield to the car coming, and then to find space to go through. This also acts as an effective traffic calming measure and is not a major concern on a residential street like this, a local street, because any expected delays for yielding would be pretty small with the small amount of traffic. Here's a map. It's maybe a little difficult to read, but just to give you an idea, this shows the streets kind of split in half, with the upper half is the half closest to Pleasant Street, and the lower half is the end of the street closest to Glenview at the end, and the blue is where the new sidewalk's going. The red shows the existing parking that we're proposing to remove, and the green is the parking that's we're proposing to remain. So you can see there's more existing parking on that side of the street, which helps maintain as much parking as we can next to that sidewalk. HRM, we completed a lighting analysis of the street to look at the current lighting levels, and identified a few dark areas that could benefit from some new lights. So we're also planning to add approximately 4 new lights to the existing utility poles along the street. Again, this graphic is just to show, kind of in green, you can see those areas where the existing lights are, and the magenta or the pink circles are meant to represent where we're planning to put in new lights. In general, this is more important for projects like this where you're adding new sidewalks, to make sure that the lighting levels are good for all users. And as well, we've collected and reviewed some traffic data on Glenview and Renfrew, and the recommendation is to implement some traffic calming measures. And after reviewing all the different options here, speed tables, which are very similar to speed humps, were the recommended treatment. Speed tables are essentially the same as speed humps, except they're elongated, so they have a flatter top, and they're longer. But they have the same effect to slow down traffic. And you can see we're actually planning to put it in on both streets so that people won't be tempted to take one street over the other. If we only put it on Renfrew, people may circle around to Glenview so that they can speed on that street. So this should have a neighborhood traffic calming effect. And the initial locations we're looking at are down by the crosswalks, kind of close to the park. As I mentioned before, with the parking, the street narrowing will actually help with traffic calming as well. It makes it feel more constrained for drivers, which helps encourage them to slow down. And with the yield, you know, if there's any parking and any yielding there, it will also help calm some traffic as well. And here's an example, I guess, on the bottom left that shows a speed hump that's in Halifax on Allen Street. So the underground work includes some water main and sewer main renewal or replacements. If you can see the blue and the green lines on this map, it shows approximately half the street is planned for sewer replacement, the half closest to Pleasant Street, as shown in green, and the approximately 2/3 or so is planned for water main replacement, as shown in the thick blue line on the map down below. And these were reviewed by Halifax Water and identified as need for replacement because the water main and the sewer mains are older along the area of the street closest to Pleasant, and have a bit of a history of breaks. And as I said before, it's a great opportunity to upgrade and reduce the need for, or the risk of breaks in the future. And farther down the street, it's less of a risk, so it's only going to half or 2/3 or so of the street is shown there. A couple other things to note that we may be looking at doing in conjunction with this work would be at the crosswalk. You can see what was done on Chadwick Street there on the right. We put in new ramps, concrete ramps with some tactile plates that are to help with the and for visually impaired to warn them that there's a crossing coming up. Replacing old signage, signposts, that kind of thing on the street. We'll be looking as we work through detailed design, looking at the grades. How do the driveways and any curbs and whatnot blend into the existing grades kind of seamlessly? Trying to kind of minimize property impacts or minimize any work. Keep the work as close to the curb as possible, but also look at making the slopes and the drainage and everything work. And just to give you an idea, here's a kind of image on the bottom that shows the typical driveway reinstatement that was done on Chadwick. Behind the new sidewalk that went in, you know, there's typically a line of asphalt or gravel, whatever the concrete or whatever the driveway material is, to reinstate it, with some sod as well going across to kind of put it back to the initial condition. And for construction impacts, so once we get to construction, we don't know the duration yet. We're still working through the details of the design and the details of the tender documents. But just to give you an idea, on Chadwick and Glenview, it was an 18-week total construction period. However, Renfrew is slightly shorter and has a bit less water and sewer work. But we can't give any definitive dates. But just to give you an idea, that's what was experienced on those streets in 2019. And you can expect some hand-delivered construction notices coming closer to construction, at least 1 week or more prior to construction. This will give details such as when does the work start, how long does it go on, or what will the duration be, who can you contact for any questions or issues that come up. And in general, a lot of questions we get is about people accessing their driveways. In general, we ask the contractors to maintain driveway access as much as possible through construction, so that residents, the lives are not impacted and things are kept as easy as possible. However, there may be some short durations when a new curb or sidewalk is placed where you're not able to drive over it because it's still fresh concrete. So that all gets coordinated through construction, and there'll be some notices or coordination with the contractor and the construction inspector to sort through any of those issues and talk about the timing for that. And then, of course, if there's any special health considerations or mobility issues, we'd like to hear about it beforehand so that we can try and accommodate that and make it work for you. So so just to give you an idea, we have if you haven't seen it already, you can go to the Shape Your City website, which gives a good background review of a lot of what I talked about already here, but might go into some more detail in some areas. So you can go there, and there's also a survey at that link that's opened until April 9th for the next few days. And of course, if you have any other, we'll have some chance for questions after this, but if you have any ongoing questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is here. It's also in the letters that were distributed to the residences. So hopefully I can help address any questions or concerns. And then, as I said, this spring we're working through design and tendering to find a contractor to complete the work. And as I noted, you'll see another notice before any work begins. And I think at this point, Siobhan, I don't know, now would be a good time, I guess, to type any questions you have. And yes. There may be a slight delay from typing questions when we can see them, but we'll try to answer them as best we can. Yes.
Due to the software we're using, there's probably about a 10 or 15-second lag, but we'll give people some time to type in their questions. If you have anything that you'd like the project team to answer, write it in the Q&A text box, type it out, and we'll read it and answer it as best we can. So far, we've received one question, and we'll see if any more come in. But the first one, I will say, a participant is interested. Oh, a participant says their name and address, which I'll conceal. And then their concern is about losing driveway area. It looks like the new sidewalk will be outside of the existing curbing, is their question. If that is the case, this will be a great improvement. So are you able to speak to that a little bit, Phil?
Yeah, so I'll go back to this slide that illustrate that better. Just bear with me here. So there, in the end, there should be really the idea is to really have no, is not to take away space from your driveway. So with the road narrowing and the sidewalk actually being on the edge of the existing road, as shown in blue on these images, the driveway space should more or less stay the same as it is now once construction is finished. I hope that answers the questions. I don't know, Siobhan, if you have anything to add to that, but
yeah, just kind of picturing where the curb is now, and rather than moving it into your space, we're moving it away from your space. So it's like you'll keep everything that you have, your lawns and your driveways, and you'll gain the sidewalk on the other side, is how I like to picture it. But that image does a great job there, Phil, of showing in blue how the sidewalk will be along the side of the street, and you'll lose roadway space for the purpose of improving the pedestrian safety, which I think is great. In this situation, it's probably wider than it needs to be.
Yep, and normally we would look at putting the sidewalk behind the existing curb, but just with the constraints we have here, it's not feasible. You know, people wouldn't have enough space to park. The sidewalk would be right against some buildings. And I think that the better solution here is to is to narrow the street. The new curb on the opposite side of the street, on the left side, I guess, of the top picture, is essentially going in where it is now. So if you live on that side, the old curb's going to be taken up, the new curb's going to be put in, and then kind of reinstated whatever surface is there behind now. So that side of the street essentially shouldn't expect any changes in terms of how it operates today.
Perfect. So we hope that we answered your question. Thank you for asking. That's the only one that we've received so far. So if you have any more questions, type it in to the Q&A box. If you don't want to ask your question in this environment or can't figure out the technology, there's always the email addresses or Phil's email address and phone number at the end of this presentation if you'd prefer to have your questions answered that way. We'll hang around for another minute or two or three to see if any more questions come in. Yeah, it seems like a really great project for the neighborhood in terms of improving the road safety for all. There's a little bit of trade-offs with the road narrowing and some of the parking, but overall it looks pretty good. I think we've been hearing a little bit of feedback through email, Phil, would you say?
Yeah, I've had some feedback, calls and emails, and a lot of people have the same questions or concerns. Which side is the sidewalk going in? How does it change the street and the parking? That kind of thing. And hope the website should explain it quite well. Hopefully, what we've gone over here will help with some of those questions. Yeah.
All right, so we got one here. Let's see. This one says, do Chadwick residents have any feedback post-construction?
That's a good question. I did.
Oh, sorry. Do Chadwick residents, not Renfrew residents, did the Chadwick residents have any feedback post-construction about how it was operating or what their experience was like after the fact?
Yeah, so I've spoken to the gentleman who managed the Chadwick project and was responsible for the design, and he passed along some of the feedback that he got prior to construction, people's questions, concerns, similar to what we're looking at now. So I have gone through that, and I've talked to him about some of the considerations in terms of the design. I'm not aware of any survey or specific feedback that they've got from residents after construction. That is something I can check into to see if we have any 311 calls related to that, and whether there's any ongoing concerns or issues that they've experienced there. But I'll certainly follow up on that. And I guess early on I did look to see if there were any calls on Chadwick Street and what they were. I'd have to go through in detail again to see if any of them were with respect to what happened after or what it was like after construction. But I think in general, it's been, from what I understand, it's been fairly positive because the people are generally happy with the sidewalk and the new street and whatnot. But I'll make a note to check into that further.
Okay, that's great. There was a follow-up saying, was it positive or negative? But I feel like you've addressed that. Next question. We're getting a few more in here now. So this one is, will you be improving any adjacent public walkways?
Yes, so we did look at doing the walkway that goes between the sidewalk crossing the crosswalk near the basketball courts and Acadia Street. Part of the issue with this one is that it's only partially on HRM owned land. The kind of back half closest to Acadia Street is actually private land, and we've been reaching out to the property owner to see if it's possible to establish an easement, to come up with an agreement to do that, so that we could allow public access and spend money to upgrade that. However, we haven't had any luck to date to get that any right-of-way or easement formalized there. So if it looks like it's probably not going to happen as part of this project. However, we're exploring different ways to do it in the future. Possibly if Katie Street were repaved, if and when that's repaved, it could be done, or possibly separately as well. So we do know that does kind of serve as a good connection for residents who will use the new sidewalk, and we'll continue to see if that can be possible. But as I said, to date, we haven't had any luck getting an easement agreement in place with the owner.
Yeah, our fingers are crossed for something in the future, but we can only go as fast as we hear back from the property owner and if they're interested or not. Okay, we have one more question here, which is, how will the parking be monitored?
Yeah, I suppose like anything else, if there's there'll be some enforcement, but if there's any issues, then please call in to let us know, so that we can address any issues with people not following the new parking. I mean, there will be new signs put up to kind of clearly show where there is and isn't parking along the street, and what the restrictions are. But of course, it is possible that people might either ignore those or not see them, and if that's the case, we can look to please know, and we can see if there's any kind of enforcement measures we can take to help keep everyone parking in the right places.
Okay, I hope that answers the question there. If you have any more, type it in the chat. I think this is the end of what we've received so far. We're happy to hang around and keep talking about this project if you have any other concerns that come up or questions. If not, maybe we'll end the session a little bit early, but we'll give another minute or two, because we are on a delay for when people are asking the questions.
Yeah, we recognize it's more difficult to ask sometimes to type everything out, but
yes,
that's kind of the format that we're using, and so yeah, we appreciate your patience there. Yeah,
it's interesting in COVID trying to trial these new types of public engagement technologies and how to do the virtual webinar style engagement. Also, if you have any feedback after the fact about how this Microsoft Teams Live environment has worked for you or hasn't worked for you, or things that we could improve, feel free to send those along as well. We're constantly trying to improve and make sure that we're engaging you in the best way possible. We've got two more questions come in. Okay, with respect to natural gas lines, what happened with the Chadwick residents?
I'm not familiar with any history of natural gas on Chadwick Street, or what may or may not have happened. I guess I can say in terms of Renfrew, there's no plan to put any natural gas on Renfrew, and I don't think there was any on Chadwick either, unless I'm mistaken. So maybe just if I didn't answer your question, maybe just either contact me separately or feel free to give a follow-up note there to clarify.
Yeah. Do you want to flash your contact information up on that last slide, Phil, just in case, so that they can follow up with you if needed? There we go. Nope.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, there we go. Yep, that looks perfect. And then last question, what is the approximate cost to HRM?
We don't know yet what the cost will be. We have pulled together some kind of high-level estimates. Of course, it gets refined as we get closer through our design, because we have a better idea of what it will be. And of course, Halifax Water pays for their water renewal work. However, I can say, based on kind of early high-level estimates. The cost, sorry, just bear with me, I'm pulling it.
I can hear you clicking and calling up your spreadsheets, Phil.
We're somewhere in the range of, sorry. Yeah, somewhere in the range of 900,000 or something like that to do the paving of the entire street, all the curbs, replacing gravels, the you know, the lights, the speed humps, any catch basins and storm work, storm upgrades, sorry, drainage improvements, that kind of thing. There's quite a few little items that get kind of done with the work as well, but I think it's in you know, it's in that range. But like I said, that can change